Hello everybody and welcome to Review Reviews. Today we're doing another Hong Kong review for a mainstream Marvel movie, you say? What? Yeah, Shang-Chi and the Ten Rings has just been released in the UK cinemas. I know it's gone of a week yet before it comes out in the US, so this review will be a kind of spoiler-free, very quick review, just giving you my thoughts and impressions on the film itself, just an overall of what I think of the experience, and being the fact I'm doing a lot of Hong Kong cinema reviews, and to have a modern movie, especially a Disney Marvel movie, you know, the most kind of multiplex giant kind of, you know, corporation ever tackling something like this. I'm curious to see how they did. And before Shang-Chi and the Ten Rings, there was the Iron Fist series on Netflix, which I actually quite enjoy. There was problems with that. There was faults in terms of some of the characterizations and maybe some of the kind of the fighting wasn't as up to scratch as it should have been, kind of thing. But I think that show definitely got a lot better, especially with season 2.
We both really worked our asses off on that.
And one of the good things this film actually does, it actually celebrates and actually embraces kind of Hong Kong cinema culture and kind of, you know, authentic kind of actors that you wouldn't have actually seen before, or kind of a series of kind of movies that more people potentially can get involved in. You know, 88 Films, Arrow, all these massive companies are re-releasing all these movies. It's absolutely fantastic. But something like Shang-Chi, a big Disney Marvel movie that has so much marketing, that has so much kind of product placements and kind of, you know, the Disney stores and the jackets and the big billboards and that kind of stuff, this can really kind of help even more so Hong Kong cinema kind of, you know, bring back some of that kind of magic that it once had from its kind of older movies over generations, and also bring people into that fold even more so. I would absolutely love to see someone watch this movie thinking, hey, I want to see a Jackie Chan film from his 70s, 80s, I want to see a Jet Li movie, I want to see Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon. That by itself, I think, is worth the price of initiation, and I think definitely people need to support this film. Today we're talking about Shang-Chi and the Ten Rings, and what did I think? Yeah, it's pretty good actually. I quite enjoyed this. This was a nice surprise. I'd say this is a very appropriate, well-handled Hong Kong experience, filtered through a Marvel lens in a sense. Definitely, you've got the Marvel Disney device, and you've got the kind of the Hong Kong aspects that you want to see. They think that all that kind of good, great stuff that is from the kind of Hong Kong culture and the actors and kind of the action kind of thing, and it's put through that machine, but not as a force it in there. It's more of a slow pace, kind of just kind of get through it. And one of the things I liked about this film, just straight off the bat, I'm going to be kind of rambling my thoughts and opinions there, guys, is the fact that it's just a nice, emotional, kind of small origin story journey. Highlights of the film is the Mandarin character played by Tony Leung, kind of thing, who is, you know, a famous big kind of Hong Kong actor from, you know, Hard Boiled, the Wong Kar-wai movies, really kind of stand out, kind of fantastic performer. That is surprising to see in something like this, and, you know, reading some of the kind of articles recently, kind of thing, he was convinced to join the project and kind of being, you know, being told, hey, look, this isn't going to be your typical kind of villain, this is going to be something different. And they're fully right, because I do think he does steal the entire film, if I'm being absolutely honest, and it kind of works overall to its strengths. I think having him as the main sort of character that you're going through the emotional arc with, I think is a smart choice, being the fact his character is kind of like, you know, this kind of very ancient, kind of very old, 1,000-year-old warrior who's been around, who's done his things, who is kind of found a woman, he settled down, you know, something happened in his past, and he's gone back to his old ways of being this kind of, you know, vicious kind of Mandarin, the, you know, the guy with the 10 rings, and he's got an army and he's got an organization, but they don't over glorify that. They kind of show that in the first kind of like maybe 10 minutes of the film, show who he is, his character, his background and his motivation, and the core of the film really is just a story between a father who has lost his wife, who is reconnecting with his son, his daughter. That's the film pretty much. You know, it has this kind of, you know, big budget kind of filter for it. Typical kind of Marvel stuff. You know, I've said this before, especially with like, you know, Black Widow kind of thing and some of the kind of the Disney TV series plus shows. You know, every time they do something a bit more low key, they have to kind of give it that kind of big budget special effects CGI Kaganza kind of thing finale, or kind of, you know, they have to have the over the top silly action film that kind of fills it up to be a Marvel movie. But the core of the story is this kind of nice little kind of low key kind of family drama with a bunch of friends around it as well, kind of thing. And there's some nice kind of scenery, window dressing in places. Hey, look, there's Abomination and Wong fight. That's cool, but it doesn't overstay its welcome. The pacing is nice. It's really kind of fast paced. Definitely going to kind of keeps on the beat. It doesn't waste time too much, kind of thing. And even when it slows down, I don't mind it because the comedy's nice, the drama's nice, and you know, the villain character of the film is the central main character, which is surprising, even though it's a Shang-Chi movie in the sense of it's building his up. But I think it works really well, and the reason why I think it works well is because what the film needed was a performer like him, like Tony, to really deliver something different from a typical Marvel villain, for one, because most kind of Marvel villains are kind of very generic, one-off kind of stereotypes, and they really could have, you know, bigged up his being an ancient warrior. They could have done a lot around that idea of him being the Mandarin, so much more if they really wanted to make him more of a presence, more evil kind of thing. But no, he comes across just as a guy, a father, a warrior kind of thing, a fighter that is willing to do what it takes to, you know, get what he wants in that sense. And I quite like that aspect, and it's nicely paced for the flashbacks and the modern day kind of conversations back and forth with Shang-Chi he has. And I think it's appropriate to really kind of guide the film for him more or less, because it's him, his struggle, his unwillingness to let go of the past and to things out of his control, being the most powerful man in the world kind of thing. He even quotes himself to be the most powerful man, and yet he is broken deeply inside and he's willing to sacrifice anything to get that back. And I think that's such a human thing, and it helps Shang-Chi kind of discover who he is and his destiny and his fulfillment in the film, which I think is very appropriate. It works really well, and I think it really helps everything else kind of build up nicely for the film. Everything that the Mandarin does in the film really kind of escalates and really helps out our kind of main kind of hero trio characters. In time, you get the sister who feels neglected, who doesn't feel like, you know, she was part of that kind of family. She wasn't trained, she had to train herself. Very dependent woman, so she has her kind of mini build up. You have the best friend character, Katie, who is someone who, you know, doesn't want to achieve anything or do anything because she's just going to fail. She worries about failing everything, and through the film she gets her a little mini arc as well in terms of stepping up, rising to the occasion. And that's what the film ultimately is. It's a 2-hour, you know, big budget Marvel movie filtered through a kind of very indie kind of concept, you know, motion film concept with a couple of big CGI moments in places. But the core of the story is just characters moving forward, you know, or kind of accepting their fate kind of thing, you know. And I can hear you right now, Andrew, is it actually a Hong Kong cinema accurately represented? And I think, yes, definitely. I think it's actually got a nice tribute to Hong Kong cinema, while still being a Marvel movie 100%. I think the first portion of the film, I think, is the most free I've seen a kind of Marvel movie actually be, even being absolutely honest. You've got the first, 10 minutes of the film, a non-American voiceover. That's pretty nice. And yes, you get to see authentic kind of characters speaking their natural language, and there's no English for a good portion a little bit for the film. It's like, hey, that's nice straight away. And the fact that for most of the film, actually, surprisingly, there's a fair good amount of subtitles and there's actual characters speaking their native tongues, and I thought, that's nice, that's what I want to see. You know, I get it's an American film, I get you need to speak a little bit of English here and there, and that's what I think Katie's character really helps come through, being the fact that she's more of an American. It's actually really nice and refreshing to see a different type of fight kind of style within a Marvel movie. They haven't kind of let go of that kind of Winter Soldier edge from 2014. They're still doing the same level of kind of fast-paced nature kind of fight sequences, and they haven't really kind of caught up with the kind of modern trend of what people want to see. You know, John Wick, you know, look at Hong Kong cinema, you know, kind of thing. And I think if you're going to borrow something from the past, Hong Kong cinema is definitely a good approach to go to, and they definitely take a lot of those elements from those movies, those classic kind of movies, big ones, and approaching this one with the fight sequences. And the bus sequence is great. I think all the scenes with Tony Leung is fantastic as well, with the whole wings and, you know, doing the backflips kind of thing. I think it looks nice. The cinematography is nice. The fight scenes are nice and clear. There's not many cuts. Obviously, it's a bit CGI and green screen in the backgrounds, but it looks really good. It actually feels like an actual fight sequence. If you can get nobody who can do a fantastic buzz sequence, you know, a comedian actor in his 50s to do a really badass, kick-ass fight sequence on a very small budget, you know, Marvel can step their game up 100%, and they actually did, and they actually was quite nice. Obviously, it goes towards its kind of more fantasy elements later on, with its more heavy CGI monsters and that kind of stuff, as you would expect. But it's nice to see a different type of form of fight sequences, and I think Shang-Chi and the kind of the Hong Kong vibe that this film goes for, obviously, can really add something different and unique, I think, to the kind of Marvel flavour. And very crouching to like a hidden dragon. There's a little bit of Jackie Chan there with some of the fight sequences. There's a little bit of Tai Chi Master in there. There's definitely a couple of, you know, inspired, kind of plucked kind of elements from the Hong Kong movies. I think this is a good jumping point to go from this point onwards, kind of thing. I think all the fight scenes are really well handled, and it definitely stays true and tribute the Hong Kong cinema kind of, you know, legacy. That is actual subtitles, actual native tongues, fight sequences that are good homages to kind of older movies within the kind of Hong Kong genre of Hidden Dragon, Jackie Chan, Jet Li, Tai Chi Master, all that kind of stuff, and actually explores the kind of the myths and legends of kind of Hong Kong lore kind of thing, while still diving into the kind of the comic book series as well. I think it has, you know, the authentic right actors to kind of portray these characters. Tony Leung is a fantastic, perfect performance from him that really helps everyone else do their part. You know, Michelle Yeoh in the film as well, which also helps the film as well. She always pops up in these kind of movies kind of thing, and I think she adds another element to it as well. So you've got some really authentic, really, you know, really gifted kind of performers. Any downsides to the film, I'd say, definitely does get a little bit slow towards the middle. I think some of the acting isn't as great as some others kind of thing. It's funny, it's exciting, it's kick-ass in places, and yeah, I'd happily watch it again. That's been my review for Shang-Chi and the Ten Rings, guys. Hope you enjoyed watching this video. What are your thoughts and opinions on the film itself? Please comment down below. So in the meantime, guys, Sam Flew Reviews, signing out.